In this video, I want to show you how to add a brand new podcast. Now, once you're logged in to your podcaster dashboard, or actually once you log in, click on Podcast Dashboard here. On the right, you'll see Create New Podcast. Click on that, and we end up with a very simple form. Now, before you add episodes, there are two ways to add episodes on Pastor Speaks. The first one is to create a podcast here, and then you'll be able to add episodes, but you can do it through your RSS feed, especially if you're on iTunes. So let's go ahead, let's create a new podcast. We're just going to call this Brand New 2017 Podcast. And let's give it a description. Our podcast is about the positive, or being positive, or whatever you want to say here to make people subscribe and listen. Now, if you have a URL, you can put the URL in here. We just say Pastor Speaks. Now, most of you will have an iTunes RSS feed. An RSS feed is very important. What it does is it allows your podcast to automatically get new episodes when you upload those episodes to iTunes. So, you'll put your URL here, and the URL could be anywhere you want. It could be whatever you get from iTunes. Here I'm just going to say iTunes RSS. But the way you're really going to find it is clicking on this link, find your RSS feed URL for iTunes. That's very important. So we'll click here, and we're just going to open up, and you can actually watch this video. It's only a minute and a half if you don't know your URL yet for your RSS feed. And then you can choose an optional thumbnail. It's better to have a thumbnail because it will appear very nicely on your podcast page. And once you're done, you just click on Add Podcast. And once it's done, it's going to automatically redirect you. It's going to thank you, and you can return to your podcast dashboard. Now from here, you can see the brand new podcast that we added. Now from here, it automatically is not published because it has to be approved by the pastorspeaks.org team. Now that might change, and you may automatically be published in the future. But for right now, your podcast will be reviewed. And you can see here is what I typed in, Brand New 2017 Podcast. Now, I'm going to show you what it looks like after it has been published. Now, once your podcast is reviewed by us, it will automatically be published. If it's not published, you'll have a reason here why it's not published. And from here, it can now be listened to, it could be subscribed to, you can get comments, you can get views. Once you do, you'll see some stats over here. This is for overall. Now, you can get the URL of your podcast here, so you can actually share it. And if you click on this URL, it will actually have your title, your RSS feed, and any episodes that you have will show up down here. And now also people can favorite. If you click on it, it will be favored, so it'll be favorited. You can favorite your own if you want, and you can share it on Facebook and Twitter. Now if we go back to your podcaster dashboard, and we're going to reload here, you'll see now that you have a favorite. So the more people you get back to your podcast, the more favorites and views you'll get. Views are counted differently, so they may not show up. Now at any point you decide that you want to unpublish your podcast. Now here, we're actually saying your current podcast, 1 of 3 are published. And we also say down here, total favorites from all your podcasts. This is going to change these numbers. You can just press the trash can. Now, it's not going to delete your podcast. What's going to happen is it's published, right? It's unpublished, excuse me. So you click on it, and now from this point, you'll see 0, and you'll see no. So anytime you want to unpublish it, but you do not lose your favorites or your views. So those stay. And that's how you create a podcast. In the next episode, we'll show you how to add episodes. Stay tuned.